I'm Alison.
And I'm Bryce. And
we're Better Half Reviews. And today we have a top 5 list for you, but we are joined by
eNVy Board Gaming. I'm Nick.
I'm Vik.
Hey guys, we're joining for another, top 5 this time. But this time we're going to do it, each person gets to do one, so that's pretty cool.
20 games.
Yes, there's going to be, well, who knows? There might be some crossover, but we're going to be talking about each of our own top 5 exceeded expectations. So it's a game that you went in to play it and you weren't like, and then it really wowed you or something. I don't know, something like that. Something more professional sounding.
Yeah.
So top 5 exceeded expectations.
I will say this list was really hard for me to make just because I do a lot of research into games. So I kind of know like what to expect. And usually it's the opposite where I think it's going to be really good and then I'm disappointed. So this list was hard.
Was it hard for
I
you,
feel
Alison?
like my list is games that, I don't know, I didn't look into too much or I expected something a little bit different. That's kind of like what my list is.
Yeah, I kind of did a little hybrid. I did what that, and then I also accounted for how popular are these games. Are these underrated games? I factored that in. If they're underrated, that kind of swayed me to put them on my list.
Yeah, I found that there was a big disparity between how much I enjoy the game and then what others rated it online on like Board Game Geek. So I kind of looked to that to see, like, affirm that, okay, this game is in fact, an underrated game, and it exceeded my own expectations for it because it was more fun than I thought it would be or what the community thinks. Yeah. So I'll start off, I guess, with
I didn't do that much research.
Oh, you didn't? No?
Sorry, go ahead.
We just took a quick look. It wasn't like that involved. Number 5 for us, well, for me, I'll say, would be the game Deadline. There was some coverage about it, and I think Z Garcia on the Dice Tower, he really likes the Deadline. So we took it into our home. We played it together. It's a good cooperative, like, crime game. You're playing cards, trying to match the symbols, and you're hoping to solve a case, and you're getting more clues and choosing, okay, if I get these symbols, I can talk to this person or visit this location. And then you're just gathering clues to try to figure out what the solution is to this crime in particular. And it's different cases that you play. And going in, it seemed very drab. And I thought, oh, we're just going to match cards. And it didn't seem very fun. But when we were actually playing it together, it was kind of fun to be, you have to use subtle ways of communication, which we don't always do perfectly. But you can't be like literal in saying what you have and where it is, because the symbols are laid out differently on the cards, and you can't be like literal about it. You have to kind of give your partner something to work with and hope that they understand what you're saying. So I had a lot of fun with Deadline, and I didn't expect it. It's ranked 3,132 last one I checked and made the list on Board Game Geek. So it's up there in the rankings, not very popular.
I don't know if I really know anything about that one.
Oh, no?
All I can say is we'd probably be really bad at that because I'm very literal and you're not.
It's kind of a cross between, have you played The Grizzled?
Nope.
You aware of it?
I know about it.
Okay, so that's a cooperative game. You're kind of trying to match the symbols. It has a lot of that in it. So if you're out there and you know The Grizzled, you might like Deadline. I like Grizzled more myself, but Vik really likes Deadline.
Yeah.
All right.
Interesting.
Okay, so for my number 5, I picked Chameleon. So this is a game that we were given last Christmas? I don't know. But we were given it by a friend, and I was like, so that's cool. I don't know anything about the game, and it seemed more of like your standard party game that you can buy anywhere. So I was like, I don't know, but we'll try it. And we had such a blast with it. I mean, it honestly depends on who you play with too, but we just had some amazing first few games, and it just really brought it home where I'm like, okay, this totally exceeded my expectations. So with that game, everybody's given different cards. One person is the chameleon who doesn't know what's going on, and everybody else has this little sheet that's laid out in the grid, and you roll these 2 dice, and depending on what the dice are, that's the spot that you're supposed to know. And there's a card that has a theme, stories or movies or places that you can go, and everybody who has the proper card knows, okay, we're supposed to be talking about Tokyo or something, and everybody has to go around and say one word, and then based off of that, you all have to try to vote, and you try to pick who's the chameleon. And I had like this perfect thing happen where I absolutely convinced everybody else that I wasn't the chameleon because I thought I knew what it was, and I used like the best way, and it worked out so well. But the downside of that is after having such a good couple games, no one would trust me after that.
Oh, you lost trust.
but it was a lot of fun.
People still don't trust her.
To this day.
They have trust issues with you.
Chameleon.
Nick actually just picked that game up a couple weeks ago at J.C. Penney.
$14.
$14.
They're selling it at J.C. Penney.
And we couldn't believe it. We thought, wow, we'll try this out. It was okay. It was hard to explain actually to his grandma. She had a tough time lining up where the dice is and the numbers and where that all intersects. But otherwise, we think that it depends really.
It really depends on the group.
On the group you're playing.
Yeah, it really depends on the group.
Yeah, but like a lot of party games, it kind of just depends on the group, and I think. But
it definitely exceeded our expectations. Was just how it worked out. So that's why I made the list.
Right on. My number 5. Well, I'll say how I did my list. We did a little different philosophy. I just made sure it wasn't in like the top 1,000. That's just my own rule I put on myself. I didn't want anything too low, and I also made sure it wasn't over a 7 rated, so it wasn't rated super high. But that's just what I decided to do. So for my number 5, it is on Board Game Geek. When I did this list, it was 6,622, which I believe is all of Vik's combined if we add them all up. This is my lowest rated one. It was a 6.3, so yeah. It is called Exposed. It's a social deduction game. Unlike other social deduction games, because you don't have to lie at all, really. You have a table, a grid of 5 by 5, I believe it is, and there are a bunch of roles out there, like job professions, and you're assigned one. And you also have some information to the side of the board of 3 other jobs that have certain abilities. But since those jobs are out there on cards and not in the actual board, you know that nobody has that role. So you do have some information. You have your role. You have the 3 that aren't there. And the key is, on your turn, you can move around these different pieces. You can do 2 moves. That's an action. Or you can steal money because there's wallets out there. And if you're adjacent to any of those wallets, you can take those wallets. So now other players have some information. You're adjacent to what you just stole. Now, you probably want to do it from the middle. You want to be in the middle when you do that because there's a lot more options, so you don't know who you are. And you can move players that aren't you. So you can really trick people. And you're just trying to get either the most money, a certain threshold, and you win, or just be the last one getting caught.
Yeah.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard of that.
Dark Horse.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's easy to explain. I was able to play it with my parents. I was able to play it with people that are newer to games, and they can pick up on it pretty quick. It's one of the first games we played with Tim and Carrie. I feel like it was one of the with our friends that we brought over when we were first getting into the hobby with them and playing games with other people.
It worked well.
It worked well.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right.
Over to Bryce.
Very cool. So my number 5 might not be a surprise to many people, considering we've talked about this before. And I put it on the list because it really changed my mind about kind of a whole genre of games. And that is Cartographers. So Cartographers is a roll and write game or a flip and write game where you're building a map, and it's just a really fun game. Prior to this, just roll and writes kind of seemed boring. Just because we played lots of like Yahtzee growing up, or I did at least, and like that's kind of the only roll and write I was exposed to. But this really changed my mind about the genre, and that far exceeded my expectations.
I concur.
Did you guys play it for the first time when we were online, the online version with us? Yeah, I think that was.
It's your fault.
It's a lot of fun. I like that game. I immediately got it with a pack of colored pencils.
Of course.
So that people can really make their map look special and colorful and not be so dry and bland with the pencil.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I jumped on it.
I kind of like the online version. They had the little tiles, and they were really colorful.
Yeah.
And it just kind of made it look really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
And my trees are terrible. When I actually draw a tree, oh,
same here.
Partway through the game, we usually get creative with our little goblins, and they look really creepy.
yeah, that's what we did too. Yeah. So my number 4 was a very surprising game. So we just kind of picked it up off the shelf when we were on the Dice Tower cruise. It was in the game room. It was late at night on the ship, and I don't know if it was you or me, and probably me, because I thought, ooh, chocolate. And I went for this box that looked like a box of chocolates, and it's called Chocolate Factory. And on Board Game Geek, it's ranked 1986 or 88, I think, at the time that we made the list. So it's up there. And honestly, I hadn't even heard, I'm not going to speak for him, I hadn't heard anything about this game before. And when we busted it out, immediately impressed by the component quality. They had these little chocolate bars and components like cocoa and things to make the chocolate. And then they had the coolest thing, a conveyor belt where you would push, like, it's not an actual conveyor belt, but the mechanism is a conveyor. So you're pushing these ingredients along the factory to eventually pop out your chocolate that comes like off of the tile. It's not actually being produced like a real chocolate, but you can't eat it. Can't eat it, unfortunately. I didn't try or anything. But a lot of fun, and wow, did it. I wanted that game. We didn't buy it yet, but I can't stop thinking about that game. I just love that Chocolate Factory game. It was really cool, and I didn't expect much. I thought maybe it's a kid's game. I don't know, but really enjoyed it. And you're trying to make different types of chocolates, market it. There's different specialists that you can hire to change the way that you're producing things or marketing them. So it's really cool. I would recommend picking it up as something that, you know.
We can't vouch for those components. That's Dice Tower Library. He upgrades a lot, so I'm not sure that might be an upgrade.
When I took a look, though, there was some pictures of it, and I'm not sure if that was an upgrade or not. So, you know, not sure, but it looked good, and it was a fun game.
A fairly heavy game, too.
Yeah, it's heavier than we imagined. Like, first Nick's like, oh, chocolate, what are we doing here?
I mean, I knew the game, and I wanted to play it. That's why. So.
Okay, so that's my number 4.
Okay, so my number 4 is a game that I bought because I wanted all of the certain games from somebody, and
like it's a secret.
Shush. And so I didn't have tons of expectations because everybody's like, this game is just for kids and, you know, whatever. And so then we bought it and we played it, and I really liked it. And this is Megaland from Red Raven Games. I know it is still more of like a family level game, but it's a push your luck style game. And I just had a lot of fun with it, where it has like a little arcade theme, and you try to collect certain cards to try to boost up your points. And I don't know, it was really fun and approachable, and we had a lot of fun introducing it to nieces and nephews and everything, and we ended up giving it to them. So we don't have it anymore, but we probably will.
Yeah, I like the push the luck aspect in that game. It kind of surprised me because it's like everybody's entering this like arcade level, and you flip out cards, and it'll be like a safe card, or it'll have like a monster on it, and it could hurt you. So like everyone takes damage at the same time, and then you can choose to like drop out, or you can choose to keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And
so it just made it fun, where it's like, oh, I'm gonna stay, and then you're like, oh no, what's gonna happen? And it's like, oh no, it's a treasure card. I should have stayed in longer. And it's just a lot of fun.
And then you could choose to use like jump tokens at certain times, and sometimes you're like, okay, I'm going to use a jump token, and then you flip it over, and it's like, oh, that was like a waste of a token. And then other times you use it, and it's like, oh, perfect, I missed that monster.
Yeah. So yeah, I bought that game just to complete not complete a collection because we don't have all of them, but I ended up really liking it too. So.
And plus, it's a Better Half review list. It's got to have Red Raven on it, right? Otherwise,
exactly.
You know.
Yeah, it's like we don't know you guys if you didn't pick one at least.
Hey, maybe one of these days we'll do it without a Red Raven game, okay?
I personally stayed away from Red Raven this time. Yeah, blasphemy.
But you know what's funny is I haven't even reviewed. Oh no, wait, we've reviewed one Red Raven so far. Defense. Anyway.
Oh really?
They should just hire you guys. Just hire me. Free advertising. Put them on a payroll.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Need a jersey.
My number 4 is a party game. It is it's one of those games that, you know, when you're under pressure and you can't think of something that should be really obvious, and it just gets your head for some reason. Anomia is that game. That game does that to you. You'll have a category. It could be something you know a ton about, but all of a sudden your brain just fries because they're racing against you. You're matching symbols when you're playing those cards out, and then you realize, oh, you and I are now in combat, so we both got a triangle out here. Now we look at the topic, but it's so rapid fire. Your brain's going so fast. Like, oh, triangle, this person, rock band, Aerosmith. But then you might not. You might just be stuck there and frozen. I know like thousands of rock bands, but I can't think of Aerosmith.
Yeah.
So it just does that. And I was surprised with this game because it's just a simple little party game. And I was also surprised that I seen Shut Up and Sit Down review this very highly too. So they really liked it, and I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought, because I don't like all the party games out there.
Yeah.
I think mostly it's my company that makes it fun. It doesn't really do it itself. But Anomia, I don't know. Every time I play it, it's just a lot of fun. I mean, if you don't mind the pressure of it, it's really fun.
Yeah, some shy people can't handle it though. We played it with like the shyer folks that they don't like everyone like looking at them, or they freeze a lot. So if you don't like freezing under
if you don't like pressure, then don't bother.
Yeah, then
skip it.
Skip. But I was impressed by the game too.
Yeah, that one was ranked 1,745, so not terrible for a party game, and it was a 6.6, also not terrible.
Yeah, I can see how that could have a lot of fun moments where you're like, in the moment, you're like, and then you say something absurd or whatever, and then everybody laughs at you.
Yeah.
Definitely. So my number 4 is another pretty popular game, but this kind of changed my mind about a genre. And previously, my only exposure to deck builders had been Dominion, which is an okay game in my opinion. It just didn't wow me. I thought it was interesting, but it just wasn't something I ever wanted or needed to own, or wasn't something I like just had to have. But this kind of changed my opinion on deck builders, and that's Clinking Space. So it's a deck builder, but you're doing a lot more than just laying down cards. You're trying to race through a spaceship, get some treasure, and get out before the bad guy gets you, or kills you. And I don't know, it's a fun twist on a deck builder. I kind of like that racing aspect, and it's like I said, it's not just laying down cards trying to get victory points. So
yeah,
that is my number
buying
4.
things from a market with Dominion, where you're like, okay, I have 4 coins, I can buy this. All right, yeah, and then you're just adding cards perpetually. I found the same. We haven't played Clank in Space. We played the regular Clank, which I don't. It's just called Clank, but. Clank Legacy is something we've been playing lately, and I really enjoy. I didn't know if I would enjoy it as much. I thought a legacy of that, really, but yeah, very impressed with Clank, and we'll have to check out the space.
On their resolutions or something. It's coming up. You guys are doing it this year. So
Yep,
make it happen.
it's on our 10x10 list.
Yeah.
I'm with
Are we
Bryce.
gonna just play that by ourselves?
Yeah, we don't have friends. I mean, that live by here.
We were lucky. We found a couple that they'll give their kid off to their mom for days on end and then join us for games, because a lot of our friends are just not available, and the pandemic and stuff has made it harder to meet up with people. But we lucked out with Tim and Alyssa playing with us, because that thing, I wouldn't want to see that just sitting there and shrink. No. I'm glad though. I wasn't sure if I'd like it, so good pick, Bryce.
Thank you.
Yep. So my number 3 is a game of detaching and mutating aliens and augmenting them with different parts and making them tall or as short as you want and building out a map, and it's Chimera Station. I really like the components of it. I at first thought this, again, had a childish look. It looked something like I wasn't sure if I would enjoy having everybody with different abilities, because sometimes asymmetric games where people have different ways that they can win, or that different, I'm not crazy about, because then I always have to focus on, okay, what are they doing, and less about what I'm doing. But with Chimera Station, you can add on these different parts like tentacles, or you can add on lobster claws, or you can put, plant matter, so now you actually eat yourself, so you don't have to get burgers. So it's really cool, these little aliens, and you're building the space station like how you want. So, I guess it is a space station that you're building. Mm-hmm. And it's ranked 946, so it is under 1,000 on Board Game Geek. But to me, I just didn't think I would like it that much. And then going in, and I really have a lot of fun. And I'll often, when Nick says, "What game should we bring over to someone's house?" or what, I'll say Chimera Station, we come here, station? So I'm always asking for that one, and it started off as kind of what is this? And you can pinch your fingers, snapping the pieces together. So that's something that I was weary of as well. It's always pulling them apart, but a lot of fun and a good game for sure.
So just don't play it with squeamish people.
Yeah, definitely.
Or at least if they're playing with you.
It's all good fun though. It's a really cute game. Like all the pieces are cute. The food being burgers is really interesting and fun. And you have to keep feeding people, and you would lose parts. And it's not a lot of take that really. I mean, you could bounce people off the spots, but it's not mean at all. So it's a friendly game, I would say, more than anything. It's not the nicest, but it's good. Yeah, I like it.
All right. So my number 3 is the first crossover. And I wanted to not talk about games that we have talked about before, but I just couldn't avoid it. So it's Clinking Space, basically for the same reasons, because I played Dominion, and I'm like, it's okay. I usually did good at it, but I just And I love that Clinking Space brought a theme to it, and it felt like a board game with deck building. So yeah, that made it more interesting to me, and then I'm a little bit more open to deck builders now. So Clinking Space.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not too into deck builders, but Clank is it's gotta be, I would say, my favorite.
Yeah.
After Legacy, it's probably my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Star Realms is up there too. All right, number 3, and you guys might be proud because I have a Red Raven game here as well. It is actually going to be Artifacts Incorporated. So it's a little dice placement game. I just, my list is mostly how I feel it's underrated. So as a Red Raven game, it gets overlooked all the time. It's just a little box game, dice placement, super fun. Vic and I play this to pieces. We played this a lot.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
To the point where we didn't need to own it anymore because we played it so much. It's like, all right, I have all these games. Do we feel like playing this ever again?
Yeah.
So we played it so much for so long. It's such a little box and packs a punch.
Burned out.
This one is what is it? It's in the 1200s, and yeah, it's a really good. If you like dice placement, you see a small one. This one fits it. It has the Ryan Lockett arts that you would recognize right away when you pull out a card, and it's super cool.
It travels well too.
That's my point. It's just pack it up.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the ones that we haven't played yet.
Okay, yeah, you can probably find that cheap. I assume it's in print.
Yeah, we liked it. We never played it with more than 2. I don't know if it's a 2-player only game, but we really liked it.
I don't think it's 2-player only, but yeah, it works really great at 2. So I would definitely say for you guys to pick it up if you see it cheap.
Awesome. Will do.
Yep, that is a hole in our Red Raven collection.
So you couldn't get excited.
Yeah.
So my number 3 is actually my first not very popular game on the list. My number 3 is a little kind of abstract strategy game that was on Kickstarter not too long ago that Alison bought. And at first when I saw this, I was like, man, that looks like just a kid's game. Like, why are you buying this? Sure, it has really cool bee minis, but whatever. And this game is called Queen Bee. And Queen Bee is like I said, a little abstract strategy game. You're a little hive of bees, and you're trying to knock out the other hive's queen. And I don't know, it's a lot of fun. It's surprisingly thematic, in my opinion. You're drawing cards, and they're allowing you to move around the board, have different abilities. The different bees have different abilities. And it was just a lot of fun to play, and I was really surprised by it.
Awesome.
Yeah, that is a fun one. That's one that we want to try with more players.
Yeah, we've only been able to play it 2-player so far, but it can play up to 4 or 5 or 6. Okay.
Well, I mean, we got the deluxe thing, so we got the 5 and 6-player expansion.
Oh,
so
yeah, that's why.
Duke it out.
So my number 2 was Council of Thor. It's ranked 995 at the time that I made the list on Board Game Geek. We reviewed it on our channel. It is a game of influencing these council members, and you can shift and move around the colors. So you're playing cards to match the colors that the miniatures of these council members are. and you want to move around the map as much as possible, stack up bonuses. It's a real point salad game. And when I first looked at it, I thought it was a little overwhelming. I wasn't sure about the game. The art is, I mean, the ugliest characters I've ever seen. It is not, it's a sight for sore eyes.
Ugliest human.
The ugliest human characters I've ever seen. Yeah, wow. Just not appealing. They are not sexy. And I don't know what it is. One guy's wearing like trash bags.
I pick him all
He
the time.
picks them.
Even though it's scrap metal. He's like scrap metal all over.
Yeah,
He's
garbage.
like gonna sell himself.
He's worth a lot at the scrapyard, yeah. But in any case, the miniatures, the components are cool. I like that there is a little player card, that good reference card. I always like that, and it's a fun game. I do well in it. I seem to do well in the game, so that always gives me and it gives the game an edge if I can beat him at it. But I recommend it. It's a lot of fun, and just don't let the looks of the box like scare you off. I think it's a reprint though. I think it may have been a classic game or some other type of game when I was looking into it. Did some research, but we played a later print, and yeah, I like the game. Council of Four.
It's a good one.
Right, that's me.
I didn't look.
All right, so my number 2 is one that I had heard about before I like really deep dived into the hobby.
Oh.
Whatever. So I was watching some older Dice Tower top 10 videos, and this one kept popping up, and I was like, well, it sounds kind of cool, but I don't know about the art or whatever, but yeah. And so I convinced Bryce that we should get it. We found it at our local game store, and little did I know that it would like run out of print, and it's actually worth a lot of money now. It is Shadows over Camelot. So this was our first real big co-op game besides like Pandemic, I feel. And we had a lot of fun with it. It just felt like super thematic with all your different quests, and it was so absurd and sometimes really hard to do, and especially when you throw in you can have an option to have a trader in the game. That made things even more crazy, and we played it with like, I don't know, 5 or 6 people one time, and so it was a lot of fun just trying to play through that, and like you're trying to play down these cards to complete these quests before everything gets overrun, and you want to collect all the good swords, and if you don't do something, like it'll become a bad sword, and when the swords total up, then that's when you end the game. I think one time we had it where we were like, yes, we're gonna win, and then something happened, and it's like, well, that sword just became bad, and we lost, and it was just like so crazy. But we had a lot of fun with it, and it's one that I bought where it's like, okay, everybody keeps saying this is good, but I don't know. And then I was like, oh yeah, this is great, and so we would show it to whoever we could.
Yeah, we've done that as well with people who don't really play a lot of games. We have Shadows over Camelot as well, and it looks old. Like the game looks like something, a relic. But you play it, and people catch on very fast. Even if they end up being the traitor, like people seem to understand what they're doing, which is good. It doesn't ruin the surprise. And Nick's had a really memorable traitor moment where we just couldn't believe. Everyone thought it was me, and it wasn't me. And meanwhile, he's traitoring it up with the discarding cards over for the sword Excalibur, and just all his good cards like just right in the lake, whatever. And killed us, and we don't win very often. We really don't win that much, but I don't mind a game that you lose at. I don't mind that, so I'm with you on that.
The more you play, it becomes easier to win. Because I did play with another group, and we won pretty handily, and I feel like, I think last time I played, we won maybe with Brandon and Hannah. But yeah, at first, it seems like, wow, we're never going to win this when you first play this game. And then, you get the hang of it.
Yeah, good pick.
Super good game.
Yeah.
Super good game. Super good pick.
And it's pretty easy to teach just because there's only like a handful of places you can go and a handful of things you can do. But like,
if you're familiar with card games, you're like, oh, okay, you need a string. You need,
But it's really hard, like you said, like you're probably going to lose the first few times you play it, and knowing how to, like, what strategies are good and stuff can take time and is a really interesting part of that game.
Definitely.
You need someone on those catapults.
Yeah.
I think that's my wisdom.
Yeah, and definitely that's one of those co-ops that if you lose, you don't even mind. Really, it's like it just makes you want to play again. So good pick. Number 2 is a tile placement game. It would be my only tile placement game on the list. It is one that also you mentioned Z loves this game as well. It's Pandoria. I think that game is great. So underrated. It says it's 3,600. So, or when I did this list, man, get out of here. That mean it makes you really think too, because you're trying to not get closed off with your people. I'm looking at Vic because Vic does not like this game.
I get closed off.
It is. It's a bit of a cutthroat game if you want to play it like that. If you want to win, it's a little cutthroat. So you got multi-use cards out there. You can either use the crystals that give you this one-time event. You can use the bottom half of the card to build a building, which gives you the event the whole game, or gives you like ability the whole game. You can build out multiple buildings to help you. And just the way you place your workers, you're placing double tile. And it has different terrain on it. You're trying to close off certain terrain, then it will score if your workers are adjacent to it. Well, you can close off workers that are trying to score. You can close them off and they disappear. And so it is a little cutthroat. Know that if that's not your thing, and usually that's not my thing, but this was so good. I mean, the currency's all tracked on a board. You can have up to 10 of them. There's money, there's crystals, and there's wood. And it's all tracked on the board, so there's no components being thrown around. But anyway, super good game. I love it.
Nice.
Yeah, very cool. So my number two, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Is a game that when I first saw it, I was like, this is kind of ugly. The board's really busy. The meeples are kind of weird looking. But as we played it, I found it to be a lot of fun. And it probably helps because I won. But that game is Fae.
Do it.
And Fae is an interesting game because you're a wayward spirit and you're influencing druids to go to different locations. And then they're performing rituals. And when you perform the rituals, they score. And there's 5 different clans of druids, so there's 5 different colors. And each of the colors score separately. So you're influencing those, you're scoring. But at the beginning of the game, you're given a color that matches one of the clans. And you keep that secret. So while everybody's moving these druids and like having them score, at the end of the game you reveal what color you are, and that the color with the highest score wins. So it's kind of like maybe a little bit of social deduction because you're trying to guess what colors everybody has. You're trying to throw people off by like scoring other colors and not your own and stuff. So it's a lot of fun.
This is one of those games where I was like, hey, we should try this. And then I'm like, I'm kind of interested just to try this. And then he like whoops me at it. And I'm like, thanks, that was fun. Because I had a few moves that I did. And I'm like, oh crap, I did that backwards. And it totally killed the game for me. So I mean, I still want to play it, but I lost badly.
I never even heard of it myself.
It kind of got lost in the radar. It was a reprint. It was rethemed and reprinted, I think. I think that we're talking about Z Garcia all the time, but I believe he did a review about it. So you can check that up on Dice Tower because we haven't reviewed it yet.
This would be a list that comes up with Z a lot.
Yeah, he's
underappreciated.
kind of,
not mentioned. Yeah, this would be.
He's the shadow. He operates in the shadows a little bit. So my number 1 was actually Nick's number 1 as well. It was our crossover. Can I say that?
Yep, yeah. That's fine.
So it is London Dread. It's a programming game. You're solving a mystery, really, but you're not, like, you're fighting a bad guy, ultimately. There's a showdown round that happens. You have to go to different places and roll dice and have different outcomes to determine how you progress and how many dread that you add, which works against you. You don't want to have too much dread or else you lose the game. It's cooperative. We have a lot of fun playing it together, and I never thought I would like the pressure of an app. Nick has an app that has the timer going. It's got a spooky voice. Terrible story sometimes. It can be really like, what? You did that? Or this happened? Whoa. Very graphic, but not that bad. But it's, if you're delicate.
I'm sensing a theme.
Yeah, it was a very dark game. But we mentioned it in our Halloween week of reviews. We had just always a good time playing it. And at the first look, it doesn't get talked about a lot. It's ranked, what was it, Nick? On
2,700 something.
Yeah, 2,700 on Board Game Geeks. Not really well talked about, but we like it.
Yep, it's a good cooperative game. It's not in print anymore, but I have a feeling it will get reprinted. I know it's one of those that they always say isn't going to get reprinted. I think it was, is it at Grey Fox Games?
Yeah, I think, or Plaid Hat. No.
Oh, Plaid Hat. It might be Plaid Hat. It's one of those two. And I'm hearing it's not going to get reprinted, but I mean, every game's getting reprinted now. They've always seem to find a way. This is one that needs more content because there's 4 scenarios, I believe. So once you play the 4 scenarios, we want to replay them as it is, but still, it would be nice to see this reprinted because it's such a good game. It's a little difficult to explain. I've had good success explaining it, but just the fact that there's a bunch of cards out there that are face down, and you kind of have to flip those cards to explain it because everything's timed. You're building up this clock. It's super great programming. So yeah, this was my number 1. I won't even will skip me when it comes to me because she mentioned it's my number 1. It's just such a good game.
Whoops.
All right. So my number 1 is a game that I judged for a while. I feel like that's what, not all of mine, but most of mine were. I was just like, eh. Where it's like it had cool artwork, but it just looked old, and so then when it was all put together, I'm just like, that just doesn't look that great. And Bryce kept saying, let's try it. We should try it. We should try it. And finally, when our local game store was closing down, they had a whole bunch of things marked off, and there was a demo copy of it. And I was like, okay, fine, we'll just do it. And we played it, and I think I lost, but I still really liked it. Or maybe I won. I don't know. But this is Mystic Veil. So it's a card crafting game. And so you're trying to buy different cards, and you can put it all together. They're like transparent cards with little pictures of different sections. And the way that you piece it together can really change what the cards do. And so it was like a deck building and card crafting. And it was just really cool how the system worked. And I really enjoyed it. And I was like, okay, I really, really judged this one before playing it. And then after we played it several times, and I was like, hey, did you know that there's expansions? And so we got a couple of the expansions and everything where it all started with him, and I'm all like, hey, can we get some expansions for it? So yeah, my number 1 is Mystic Veil.
Very cool.
And there's a ton of expansions for it too. So
Classic.
Very fun.
Skip over me and go right to Bryce.
Yep. So my number 1, I don't know, I feel like this is going to be disappointing and a cop-out, but this is a very popular game. It was, I think, number 1 on BGG for a while. But this is Pandemic Legacy Season 1.
Okay.
You misjudged this game?
Let me explain.
Okay.
This was our first Legacy game, so I didn't really know what to expect. And I was kind of down on it just because I was like, I'm going to buy this game and we're going to play it a few times and then just throw it away. Like,
yeah, I can see
come
that.
on. I like playing my games over and over again. I don't want to play this just a few times and throw it away.
But when it came down to it, who was the most excited to rip up cards?
Yeah.
It is fun. It's nice to open boxes and stuff.
Yeah, it was so much fun opening boxes, and then the story to it, kind of the twist and I guess kind of some of the unexpected things. But it was just a lot of fun. And it changed my mind to Legacy games, and I don't see it as just a game we're going to play a couple times and throw away, but it's more of an experience, and just the good times we had with friends playing it and stuff really changed my mind about it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I forgot I had to convince you that we needed it.
And I had to justify it to myself. I'm like, okay, we're spending this much money and it'll take this long to play it. So if we were to go to movies, that would be this many movies.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess it's worth it in the end.
4 Legacy games later, here we are.
Yeah, we convert it to pizzas. How many pizzas is that?
Nice.
Yeah, we enjoyed the pandemic. The season 1 was better for us than season 2.
Yeah.
Had a mishap happen to us. So I won't spoil anything, but we don't know what went wrong with our game. We watched many hours of the Dice Tower and other people playing through the game just to see where did we make a mistake.
Couldn't find it.
Oh, no.
Couldn't find it, but really enjoyed the Legacy, and that was my first Legacy game that I played. I'm pretty sure we hadn't done one. I don't think we had busted out Charterstone yet. Our friends have Charterstone. We've been trying to do that, which you end up getting that game. I guess you build a game, so that's kind of nice about Charterstone rather than just binning it right in the garbage.
Yeah, if you like the game.
Yeah, if you like the game, which
we don't.
We don't, no. But good pick, Bryce.
Well, we kind of cannibalized our pandemic and took some good cards out of it. And
We because our regular Pandemic was played so much, and there were cards that we could put into and like switch it out. So we took the cards that looked good and still worked with the previous game or the original game, and we switched it out. So we have like fancier looking cards in Pandemic that look sparkly and new.
Oh, nice.
That's clever.
Any honorable mentions from you guys on this or no?
Yeah. Do you have a couple?
We have one crossover honorable mention.
Okay.
What you say?
The honorable mention for both of us was the game Microbrew. This is like a tin game, Microbrew. It's a worker placement game. It's a lot of fun. I mean, for what you're getting in that little tin, I mean, geez, this game was really well done. I think it was by a couple. And yeah, it packs a punch for what you're paying for, what you're getting, because you don't think it's going to be very much. And all of a sudden, yeah, you're moving these cubes around to make sure you're filling these orders, and you have all these characters that want different beer, different types of beer. You're trying to make the perfect type of beer to get the most favorite ones. You got to bottle it, age it. It's like, wow, okay, that's a really good job. And that was only that. I guess that we reviewed that one, but I only had one on my list that we reviewed. That was London Dread. So we reviewed that one, and I give it a positive score. I liked it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
Very cool.
I had a couple. Honestly, I kind of had like 10 previously on my list, and then when we were like combining and like just doing 5 and 5, I'm like, oh man. So I have two. One was Space, where I kept hearing good things about it. I'd watch a review and I'm like, maybe, and then I'd be like, no. And we almost bought it several times, and I was like, no, it just doesn't look that good. And so finally, I was like, okay, fine, let's just do it. And you're like, yeah, let's buy it. And I loved it. It was so much fun. With the dice rolling and trying to like build up and your spaceships and stuff and get good points. So that was a lot of fun. And then the other one, not to talk about games that we always talk about when we talk with you guys, is Bunny Kingdom, where I was just like, this looks kind of weird, but I like all these bunnies. I don't know. Maybe it'll be fun. And then I was kind of talking myself out of it, and I was like, okay, no, let's try it. And you're like, yeah, let's just try it. And that's his voice in my head. But then it was a ton of fun, and it's like one of our favorite games to play at 2 players. So yeah, that was one that definitely exceeded my expectations.
And I didn't have any runners up, mainly because I had a really hard time getting to 5 in the first place. Yeah. So yeah.
If I did my list based on just what I expect, because I did mine more underrated, obviously. If I did mine is like get in the box, trying to play it and thinking if I'm gonna like it or not. I mean, Camelot is way up there. You get that thing, you're like, okay, this is just gonna be a little filler. I'm not gonna care. Oh, now all of a sudden I really care. Mm-hmm. Like what happened? And that's the one that would be there. Forgotten Waters might be up there because really your actions are so simple, but man, it just plays so well.
Yeah,
those are a couple of mine.
Nice.
Yep. If we ever play Camelot, I'm sure that'll be on my list because I've seen that game and I'm just like, really? You want that?
I've been wanting it forever.
We like
second version, but yeah.
But I'm sure it'll be on my list. I hear good things about it from everyone.
Yeah.
All right. So that's our exceeded expectations list. Let us know in the comments below if there's any games that you found that exceeded expectations. Are there any of the games that we mentioned that you're like, oh yeah, that's totally a great one, or you're like, that does not exceed expectations? But yeah, so let us know. And then also don't forget to check out eNVy Board Gaming because they have their own YouTube channel and they do lots of great reviews and they're great people.
Thank you.
Links
Thanks
will
for
be in
having
the
us.
description for everything.
Yeah, thanks for coming. All right.
Absolutely.
So
Great to be here.
I'm Allison.
I'm Bryce.
Bye, guys. Nick and Vik signing off.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye, y'all.
I'll try.
Hey, yeah.
What? We can't talk with our hands?
I like it.
I do too, but sometimes I feel like my hand is the.
I talk with my hands too.
Okay, don't hit me.
Okay.
I choke on nothing all the time. Nick knows. I'll breathe and then suddenly.
I'm alive. Maybe.
Good. We
Feels
like
good.
you that way.
Feels good to be alive.
Happy gaming.
Hey, that's what I said.